that is the core trait of toxic masculinity is you cannot be vulnerable for a second. You're like allergic to it.
This is wonderful. Today, I'm very excited to be speaking with Aaron Abrams, one of the stars of Best Boy, which is, thank you so much for the time, Aaron. I really appreciate it.
Of course. My pleasure.
Best Boy is wild, and it is so fun and hard to watch, and so many different feelings can come out watching this film. What excited you to step into the role of Lawrence?
Uh, well, I mean, when you're looking at, doing a project, I mean, it's the script and it's the people you get to work with. Caroline is I've worked with before. I love her so much. I think she's so, I mean, um, she just feels like she can walk on water. She can kind of do everything, and she's such just a lovely person. And Mark, who I knew in real life a little bit and got to know much more on the screen. Now we're great friends, and I just think I was aware of his work as well. And Jesse's previous films, they're much more. They were obviously quite different. They were a little bit more of kitchen sink dramas. But he had taken that same sort of Cassavetes at least there were certainly some parts of those movies, when you talk about masculinity and the kind of friction that was happening, and he just had dialed it all the way up. And so for an actor, it's kind of an amazing playground where you're not just getting to do scenes with amazing people, but you're getting to play in this sort of weird universe where, I always like movies where the audience is playing catch up a little bit, where you're leaning in. You get a lot of these Marvel movies, which are just sort of kind of about, and I love Marvel movies, but they are just kind of barfing uh, stuff onto you, and you just take it and you love it. Whereas, my preference, my favorite movies are movies that get me to lean in and be like, "What's happening? Oh, so he hates her, or wait, what are they doing?" And this movie has so much of that, where it's connecting with an audience in a different way. So it really appealed to me.
Well, you mentioned about the kitchen sink in a different style of film. I feel like this is a sort of film where you have to be careful that someone's not throwing the kitchen sink at you.
I'm sure I tried. I'm sure I tried. There was some take where I improvised trying to lift the sink up and hit one of my siblings with it.
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing about this film is that I mean, obviously it's over the top. You've got these three siblings who are competing for the title of best boy after their father's passing. It's heightened, it's over the top, but it feels somewhat grounded in its approach in the relationships between these siblings. It just keeps digging more deeply. And of course, with Lawrence, what is it that you think Lawrence wants most from the best boy games, if you will?
Well, I think that all three, I think what you're saying, even though they're heightened and they're playing and the world is heightened, I think, it's rooted because we can relate to ultimately to the bottom line of what this is sort of. I mean, Jesse's like dialed it up to life and death stakes, but ultimately it's about, sibling tension, familial tensions, and um, and open wounds and the need to be loved. I play a lot of I played a lot of jerk offs, and ultimately, it's almost always about when you're playing somebody who's uh, maybe an antagonist of the piece. It's rarely like the Joker, where you're just like, I just want to burn the world down. Like you have they have a motivation where it's there's something inside them that's just like, I want to be loved. I just want to be loved, and I don't know how to do it. Or they have a point of view, and Lawrence is very much like that. I just think he's they've all been damaged with the kind of upbringing they have. Um, where the other two have retreated, Lawrence has done the opposite. And so he's sort of this driving destructive engine moving forward, but that's how he won't ultimately feels like that's his only tools to get what he wants is to be aggressive. Um, and ultimately what he wants is love. I think that's all it works for all three of them.
It's interesting because we say Lawrence isn't necessarily the antagonist of this film. It's the character that never appears. You know,
Yeah.
there's
Wow. Really well put. Yeah.
he's passed that down. And Lawrence, like you said, Lawrence may have stayed, but Lawrence seems
Right.
to have absorbed so much of it. And I wanted to ask you about that idea of masculinity, certainly toxic in this case, because you have a father who has forced you to compete for his affection,
Hmm.
in physically, literally in this case. And your character's just sort of been in his presence and taken that in.
Yeah, I'm the one who's embraced it, I think, and is trying to win via acceptance of it, via acceptance of these games and trying to emulate him, um, which you're right in saying that the ghost of him is sort of the antagonist. The ghost of him is very much, I think, alive in Lawrence, but he's trying to, and those are the scenes to me that feel most like toxic masculinity when Lawrence is soft and then gets the smallest bit of criticism and cannot process it. That certainly happens in scenes with Caroline, where you can tell these two just want to love each other, and they've been through, at the very least, because they've been through the same shit.
Hmm.
Um, but the minute something comes out, he can't process it, and I think uh, that's I don't know if it's how boys are brought up or if it's something to do with testosterone, but I do think that is the core trait of toxic masculinity is you cannot be vulnerable for a second. You're like allergic to it. That's why catcalling exists. That's why unsolicited dick pics exist. That's why guys go to the top of a bell tower with a rifle. It's all that. They just feel small and they don't know what to fucking do with it. And so they got to get it off them immediately. It's almost a second. It's like an allergic reaction. It's not thoughtful in any way. It just needs to get off of me and onto you. So I see a beautiful woman on the street. She doesn't know I exist. I feel small. I got to yell something at her. Now it's off me. It's on her. I can go on my day. And that is, very much what Lawrence is about throughout this whole thing. I mean, he has to establish dominance, otherwise he feels small. And the minute he doesn't have dominance, like when if he loses a game or the smallest bit of critique from his mom or from Caroline's character, like he goes into overdrive.
Well, and I think it's the scene with Caroline. I love that one with you two at the table. When he says, "I don't have anger issues. I just know what it is to run a family."
Right,
And
right.
it's like this immediate self-deflection. It's like there's no self-reflection. It's all deflection.
That's right. It can't be me because I have no place to put it. I don't have any of the tools to process my faults or introspection in any way because it's too dangerous and it's too hard and ultimately like that's his art. I mean, he gets there, I think, but like it takes some real violence to get him there.
It does. I mean, in all sorts of ways. I know at the end he takes real like it gets dark, but I mean it's certainly like the different levels of violence all the way through this film and different styles, verbal, physical, all it's all there. Um, having said that,
Hmm.
I would love to ask you about breaking the cycle for a character like Lawrence. And because, like you said, he's sort of absorbed and he's got his father in him. His mother is playing mind games with the three of them, left, right, and center.
Hmm.
What do you think it takes for a character like Lawrence to really break free from that sort of tension?
I mean, you're gonna have to find a way to hold his feet to the fire, I think. Like he's not gonna go willingly. Um, and this is just Jesse's script, right? Like so in order for Lawrence to have a breakthrough in any way or a realization of any way, it needs to come through love. I can't. I don't know if I can spoil the movie during this
Right.
conversation, but like during that climax, right? He like he is more vulnerable. Like he's basically been kind of ripped to shreds. Like he's filthy, his clothes are tattered, and even when I'm fighting with my little brother, he's admitting some things that he's probably never admitted about his insecurities and things like that, where, he really had to be driven to sort of the depths of whatever his personal hell is, which in this movie is the death of the dad, plus, playing the games after several years. And so it's just like full PTSD, um, exposure therapy to the max. And Jesse's script does an amazing job of doing that with all three. I think getting them sort of the way they march through the fire is very specific and different to all three of them, and they all end up in very different places.
Absolutely, absolutely. Which I think is what, is what's so challenging watching these people is that they're all there for the same reason, and they're all coming with totally different baggage, if you will,
Yeah.
along the way. I mean, this is like you said, there's so much to play with in a film like this with these characters, but. What was it like for the three of you on set? Because you go some places with this in a lot of ways that other films don't. Like the sort of working together. I don't know. There's something that feels like a little bit of extra added sauce in this film, and here when the cameras are rolling. So I was wondering what the relationship. What I'm sure it
I
was
mean,
great
part of it
working
is
together.
when you're working on movies like this that don't have massive budgets, and in this movie specifically, I think it was important for Jesse to have a visual style.
Mm.
As I said, his previous two movies were kitchen sink movies, and he just has such an eye that he wanted to showcase that. And so the time on the floor, I mean, we're doing one take sometimes, so that's a bit of this special sauce you're seeing, where it's like there's no net, and we just have to kind of go for it, or there's a bunch of scenes that are just one long oneers and stuff like that. Um, that are for artistic purposes, but also for time purposes. And so that is what you're watching a little bit of like, well, we're going to have one shot at this and it's going to be in the movie. And so there is a fragility that comes out, I think, an automatic vulnerability to the acting. And also, it really helps when you have the trust that the three of us did and the respect, being able to do that, I think, in some situations with like maybe a total stranger or with someone who isn't as good as Caroline would be a lot tougher, but you can sort of um, put your guts on the table in front of her and know that it's going to be reciprocated.
Yeah, the scenes with the three of you together just feeding off each other. I mean, you do a great job.
That's
It's
very kind of you to say. Thank you, Steve.
Well, I mean, and it's funny to say fun to watch is a hard thing to do in a film like this,
No,
but
that's great though. I do think it because it's wild. It's a
yeah,
wild animal of a film, so like um, it should be fun and things are heightened, right? Like it is this thing where it's something we all relate to, which is familial stickiness, but it's dialed to up to these massive stakes, and it's taking, sibling rivalry into literal games, and all these other sort of elevated things that are fun notions for sure. And so hopefully the film is you can't be this wild and crazy and violent and not try to and be uh, detestable. Like you have to, there has to be an absurdity to it baked in that hopefully makes it fun to watch.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and it is. So honestly, Aaron, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. Best Boy
Oh,
is
my
just so
pleasure,
much
Steve.
fun. I I appreciate this chance. Thanks so much. Have a great
No,
day.
this has been great. You've been absolutely great. And